I honestly didn't know if I should laugh or feel terrible for him. He was standing there, holding this map upside down, turning in a complete circle in the middle of the sidewalk.
Oh, that is such a stressful feeling. You know that feeling, right? When the world just feels too big and you have absolutely no idea where north is?
Exactly. And Boston is not exactly a grid, you know? It's more like a bowl of spaghetti that someone dropped on the floor.
That is the perfect description. So, did you step in? Or did you let him figure it out?
Of course I stepped in. I can't watch a puzzle go unsolved. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Love English Lab. I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Megan. We are so happy you're here with us today.
Today we are talking about something that happens to all of us. Getting lost, getting confused, and, most importantly, how to give clear, step-by-step directions to fix it.
Whether you are helping a stranger find a train station or telling a friend how to cook a specific meal, the language of instructions is actually really beautiful. It's all about helping someone else feel safe and confident.
Exactly. It's about structure. So, Megan, take me back to yesterday. I mentioned the lost tourist, but I know you had a bit of an instructional adventure yourself this week?
Oh, calling it an adventure is very generous, Charlotte. It was more like a mild panic attack involving a coffee machine.
A coffee machine? Wait, did you finally buy that espresso maker you've been talking about?
I did! It arrived at my apartment in Toronto on Tuesday. I was so excited. I unpacked it, I put it on the counter, and then I opened the manual.
Let me guess. The manual was thick, the font was tiny, and the diagrams looked like rocket science.
It was terrible. It felt like I was reading a secret code. And you know me, Charlotte. I like calm. I like simplicity. I stood there staring at this beautiful machine and I just thought, I am going to break this before I even make one cup.
But you didn't break it. I can hear the caffeine in your voice today. You sounded very awake when we logged on.
No, I didn't break it. But I had to slow down. I had to stop rushing. I realized I couldn't just guess. I had to follow the steps. First, do this, then do that.
First then, next. Those are the magic words. It's funny, isn't it? When we panic, we try to do everything at once. But instructions, good instructions, force us to look at just one small piece at a time.
Exactly. So, tell me about your tourist in Boston. Because giving directions on the street is a little different than reading a manual. You have to be the manual for someone else.
That's a great way to put it. You have to be the manual. So, I was walking near Harvard Square. You know I love walking there. It helps me organize my thoughts.
It is a beautiful area.
It is. And I saw this man. He looked to be about my age, maybe a little older. He had that classic tourist panic look. He was looking at his phone, then looking at the street signs, then looking back at his phone.
The worst feeling.
And I realized he's looking for the T station, the subway. Now, for me, finding the station is automatic. I don't even think about it. But for him, it was invisible. So I walked up and asked, "Hi, are you looking for something?"
That is such a nice way to start. You didn't just start barking orders, you checked in first.
Clarity requires connection, right? He looked so relieved. He said, "Yes, I'm trying to find the red line, but my map says it's right here."
And was it?
Technically, yes. But the entrance is tucked away behind a newsstand. You can't see it from the corner. So I had to switch into instruction mode. I didn't say, "Go over there." That's too vague.
Over there is the enemy of clarity. So what did you say?
I used landmarks. I pointed and said, "Do you see that big brick building with the white clock tower?"
Visual anchors. I love that.
Exactly. He said yes. I said, "Okay, walk towards that tower. Before you cross the street, look to your left. You will see a glass elevator. That is the entrance."
That is so clear. You gave him a sequence. First the tower, then the stop, then the look left.
It has to be sequential. If I had just said, "It's next to the elevator," he wouldn't know where the elevator was. You have to build the path in their mind.
It's like holding their hand, but with words. You are taking the fear away. Did he find it?
He did. I watched him. He walked to the tower, stopped, looked left, and then he turned back and gave me a huge thumbs up. It was a great moment.
I love that. It's such a small interaction, but it changes his whole day. Instead of feeling lost and stupid, he feels capable.
That's the goal, isn't it? Whether it's English grammar or finding a subway station, we just want people to feel capable.
You know, listening to you describe that, it makes me think about how much trust is involved in giving directions.
Trust? How do you mean?
Well, that man had to trust that you knew the truth, and you had to trust that he understood your English. When I was growing up in Toronto, it's such a multicultural city, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So people would ask me for directions all the time, often in very broken English. And I remember realizing very young that my tone of voice mattered just as much as the words.
Say more about that. The tone?
If I spoke too fast, or if I sounded impatient, they would panic. They would stop listening and just nod, even if they didn't understand. Have you ever done that? Just nodded because the other person was speaking too quickly?
Oh, guilty. Definitely. I think we have all done that. Yes, thank you. And then I walk away and realize I have no idea what they said.
Exactly. So, when I give directions, I try to slow everything down. I use a lot of pauses. I might say, "Go straight for 2 blocks. Do you see the blue sign? Turn left there."
I like that. You are checking for understanding at every step. It's like putting periods in the paragraph.
Yes, and I think it helps me relax too. I don't need to rush. You don't need to rush. We will get there.
It's interesting you mentioned the 2 blocks thing. In Boston, we don't really use blocks as much because the streets are so irregular. We use visual things. Past the Dunkin' Donuts, after the big tree. But in Toronto or New York, the grid makes it different, right?
Yes, Toronto is very much a grid, so we use blocks, or lights. Go 3 traffic lights and make a right. It is very mathematical.
See, I love that logic. My brain loves the structure of 3 lights, then right. It's a formula. But the human element, that's where the challenge is.
It can be hard when the person is stressed. I remember once, before I was a teacher, I tried to give directions to a woman who was crying. She was late for an interview.
Oh no, that is high pressure.
It was. I could see her hands shaking. If I had given her a long list of instructions, go here, then there, then left, then right, she would have collapsed.
So what did you do? Simplify?
I simplified it completely. I didn't give her the whole route. I just gave her the first step. I said, "Okay, take a deep breath. You just need to get to the main intersection. See that tall bank building?" She nodded. I said, "Just walk there. Ask someone else when you arrive."
Really? You passed the baton?
I did, because she couldn't handle 5 steps. She could only handle 1. Sometimes clarity means doing less.
Clarity means doing less. That is actually profound, Megan. I think I try to give the whole solution because I want to be helpful. But you're right. If the cognitive load is too high, it just causes a crash.
Cognitive load. Look at you with the psychological terms.
I can't help it. I love knowing how the brain works. But it applies to my map story too. I didn't tell him how to buy a ticket or which platform to stand on. I just told him how to find the door.
Step 1.
Step 1. Once you are inside, you can figure out step 2.
Speaking of step 2, can we go back to my coffee machine? Because I think I got stuck on step 2 for about 20 minutes.
Oh, please, I need to know. What was the sticking point? Was it the water tank? It's usually the water tank.
It was the portafilter.
The fancy handle thing where the coffee goes?
Yes, the fancy handle thing. The instructions said, insert portafilter at a 45-degree angle and rotate counterclockwise until it locks.
Okay, that sounds technically accurate.
Technically, yes. But counterclockwise? 45-degree angle? I was standing in my kitchen holding a bag of coffee beans, trying to remember geometry class.
I can see you doing the math with your hands.
I was! And it wouldn't fit! I was pushing it, and I was so afraid I would snap the plastic. I kept thinking, why didn't they just say, turn it to the left?
Right. Counterclockwise is precise, but left is human. So how did you solve it?
I did what everyone does. I went to YouTube.
The Universal Instruction Manual.
Yes, I watched a video, and the woman in the video didn't talk about angles. She just said, hold the handle pointing at me, put it in, and pull it tight like a door handle.
Like a door handle. See? That is an analogy. That makes it click.
It clicked immediately. Snap, locked, done. I made the coffee.
And how was the coffee?
Oh, it was delicious. But the best part was the feeling of success. I felt like I had conquered the machine.
You battled the machine, and you won. You know, your coffee story highlights something really important about instructions. There is a difference between written instructions and spoken instructions.
Huge difference. Written instructions are usually formal. They use words like insert, proceed, ensure.
Ensure the device is plugged in.
Exactly. But when we speak, when we are helping a friend, we don't talk like that. We use softer words. We use connectors.
Connectors, like first, then, after that.
Yes, but even simpler ones. Once you have that, or now that you're done with that part.
Oh, I love once you have that. It connects the past to the future. Once the water is hot, pour it over the beans. It tells you exactly when to act.
It creates a rhythm. I think that is what I do with my English students when I am explaining a grammar point, or even just how to book a lesson. I try to create a flow.
Give me an example. Let's say you are explaining how to record a voice message for our podcast.
Okay, well, I wouldn't say navigate to the interface and depress the record button.
Please don't say that.
I would say, okay, first, just open the app on your phone. You'll see a big red microphone icon in the middle. Just tap that once.
Just. You used the word just.
Did I? I didn't even notice.
You did. Just tap that once. It minimizes the pressure. It implies that the action is easy. Just turn left. Just push the button. It's a very comforting word in instructions.
That is true. Just means don't worry about anything else. It focuses the attention.
I use actually a lot. I've noticed that about myself. Like, it's actually right around the corner. It signals a pleasant surprise. Like, don't worry, it's closer than you think.
We have these little verbal habits that soften the edges. It's funny, Charlotte, because you are so logical. You love the structure. But you use these soft words too.
Well, logic without warmth is just a computer code. And I don't want to be a computer. I want to be a helpful human.
A helpful human who loves organizing bookshelves.
Hey, my bookshelves are a masterpiece of organization.
I know. I've seen them on video. They are color-coded. It is very impressive.
It helps me think. But actually, organizing a bookshelf is another great example of step by step. You can't just throw books at the wall.
No, definitely not.
You have to empty the shelf first. That's always step one. You can't organize a mess while it's still messy. You have to clear the space.
That sounds like a metaphor for life, Charlotte.
Maybe it is. Clear the space. Then sort by category. Then put them back. Step by step.
I like the idea of clearing the space. When I am overwhelmed with work or even just with chores, I try to do that mentally. I stop. I make a list. The list is my set of instructions for myself.
Do you write it down? Or do you keep it in your head?
Oh, I write it down. In a notebook. With a pen.
The physical act of writing.
Yes, if I just keep it in my head, it feels like a cloud. It's too vague. But if I write, 1. Answer emails. 2. Record audio. 3. Walk the dog. Suddenly, it's doable.
You are turning the abstract into the concrete. That is exactly what giving directions is. You are taking a vague desire, I want to go to the station, and turning it into concrete actions. Walk, turn, look.
And check off the box. I love checking off the box.
The dopamine hit. The brain loves completion.
So, if our listeners are in a situation where they have to give instructions, maybe a colleague asks how to use the printer or a tourist asks for a museum, what is the one thing they should remember?
I think, start with a destination. Confirm you know where they want to go. You want the art museum, right?
Yes, confirm the goal.
And then, break it into pieces. Don't give the whole movie. Just give the first scene. Go to the end of the street. Stop there. Let them process it.
And check their face. Look at their eyes. If they look confused, stop. Rephrase it. Say, let me say that differently.
Let me put it this way. That's a great phrase. And use your body. Point. Use gestures.
Yes, we have hands for a reason. You can mime turning a key or walking straight. It crosses language barriers.
And be patient. Remember my tourist. He was scared. A little kindness made the instructions stick. If I had been rude, he probably would have gotten lost again because he was too nervous to listen.
Fear blocks understanding. Comfort opens it. That is something I really believe.
Fear blocks understanding. That is true for language learning too. If you are afraid of making a mistake, you can't hear the patterns.
Exactly. That's why we always say, take your time. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be clear.
And clarity comes from simplicity. Short sentences, familiar words. First, do this. Then, do that.
It's simpler than it looks.
Hey, that's my line.
I borrowed it. Because it's true. Once you notice the pattern, it clicks.
It really does. Well, Megan, I am glad you conquered your coffee machine.
Me too. I will make you a cup next time you are in Toronto. I promise I will follow the instructions perfectly.
I will be watching closely to make sure you lock that portafilter correctly.
Deal. Thank you all so much for listening to this conversation today. We hope it helps you feel a little more confident the next time you need to guide someone or ask for guidance.
And remember, whether you are organizing a bookshelf or navigating a new city, just take it step by step. It's the best way to get anywhere.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep these conversations going and reach more learners like you.
And leave us a comment. Tell us about a time you got lost or a time you helped someone. We love reading your stories.
We really do. Thank you for being here with us at Love English Lab.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.